So now let's get a little bit more specific. From a digital mindset, which is what we've been talking about, to actually digital marketing, which is really what we're going to do here today. And the first question is obviously, what's an easy starting point? Where should we begin? Well, if you are to take one chart out of today's presentation, please take this one, because that's all that we're going to be talking about today. First of all, one, create the right content, which is what we call site strategy. It doesn't have to be your website. It has just be your content, whatever it is housed or hosted. It's a completely different question. Then you're going to be able to pull consumers to that content, tapping into the choices that they make and the needs they express. And three, you're going to push that content out to consumers. All of the time, this being informed by real-time insight, real-time data. And if you take 1, 2, 3 as the basis for any digital strategy, create the right content, pulling consumers to that content, and pushing content out to consumers, and then you'll be okay. And this will help you anytime someone is talking about, shall we get banners on YouTube? Shall we get banners on MSN? Where does that fit within the digital strategy? And exactly what is the role of that within the overall scheme of things? That is something that will, but this is a tool that will help you understand better when discussing digital strategies with your creative agencies, with your media agencies. Every time you have that discussion, if you kind of tap into this framework, I'm sure it will help you. Let me give you an example. You guys remember the T-Mobile Lives for Sharing example, the whole singing and dancing at Liverpool Street Station? That was a fantastic example of how to do pull, push, and content. Obviously, the content was fantastic. It was phenomenal. They had not just the main video that they showed on TV, but they had extended versions. They had kind of bloopers, and they had kind of movies that they kind of filmed people's reactions to the actual filming, and they had content where people could upload themselves singing. They had aggregated content on YouTube about people singing and dancing. So there was a lot more information there than just kind of their main TV ad, and people could actually contribute to that content as well. So good example of good solid content that had to do with what their brand was all about, like sharing life. Then they pulled consumers into that content. For example, if you typed in dancing on any search engine, you'd get join the dance with T-Mobile, see your dance event here at tmobiledance.youtube.com. And the thing is, actually, the content was hosted on YouTube. It wasn't hosted on their own webpage. It was hosted on a social network, and that's because that was kind of the most natural place for that content to be. And they also pushed that content out to consumers by putting it on the main homepages of Yahoo, MSNs, YouTubes, you name it, they were there. So they pushed the message to the main portals and to where consumers already were predisposed to kind of consuming that kind of content. So this is a fantastic example. But the fact is that different brands will have different choices to make. You probably will be a little bit more pull, a little bit more push. Your content will either be very simple or richer. I mean, every brand will have their own formula for this. And let's take, for example, the Pampers. Pampers is a brand that targets the most information-hungry target of all. Moms. Moms are traditionally very hungry for information. I know that my wife is pregnant. She spends all of her time, not just on Facebook, but also on mom's forums and blogs, and trying to find out a lot more about what's happening to her body, everything about babies, what to do with that thing when it arrives. I have that question myself. So what does it mean for Pampers? In terms of site, it probably means that they're going to have a lot of information. They're going to have a lot of content, because that's what they're a lot of push. I'm going to be interested to see what comes out of today, because obviously there are some assumptions here, and I want to see exactly how you come about to answering this question for your brands. And throughout today, you will have the opportunity to build something similar for your own brand and try to understand what's the right answer for my consumers, for my brand, and how does that relate to my marketing objectives. So we're actually going to go off and do it. We're going to try to work out what's right for your own brands. Today's workshop is a process that begins by, I know that you all had a bit of pre-work, just basically by letting us know what your target audience is and what your marketing objectives are. So we're going to start with that just as an anchor. It's not digital specific, but it's something that has to be anchoring the entire strategy for your brand. I'm sure you know that better than me. Then we're going to go off and have a little brainstorm, what we call the brand territory brainstorm. Just trying to explode all of the areas of consumer interest that your brand could possibly relate to. And then we're going to take a few of those areas, the most important ones, and build a pull strategy, a site strategy, and a syndication strategy for each one of them. Okay? That's kind of today's in a nutshell. By the end of the day, we'll also be talking about a little bit about measurement, because one of the big questions about digital is how we're going to measure it. How is it really working? So we're going to give you a kind of a brief overview of how we see measurement working for branding online. And there's something missing from this chart, which is a kind of a number 7, which we're going to pilot today.